My daughter cut me out of the wedding I was paying for and chose the man my cheating ex ran off with to walk her down the aisle. I wish I could say this is the kind of story that happens in movies or in someone else's family or in a bad dream. But it's not. It's mine. And every word of it is burned into me like a scar I can't stop running my fingers over. My name's Thomas. I'm 52. I own a mid-size export business out of Oregon, and I thought I understood pain. Divorce, bankruptcy scare in the early 2000s, losing my father too young. But nothing could have prepared me for the way my own daughter would shatter me. Her name is Emily, 25 years old, my only child from my first marriage. Her mother left when Emily was just 6. One day, she kissed her on the forehead, told me she needed space, and was on a flight to Paris by morning with a man named Rick. Yeah, that kind of story. I raised Emily alone until she was 10. That was 4 years of scraped knees, late-night fevers, and breakfast for dinner more nights than I can count. I did it all, with no complaints. Well, maybe a few, but I loved that girl so much it hurt. Then I met Laura. She was patient, kind, had this grounding presence that pulled me back from the emotional cliff I lived on. We married 2 years later, and Laura stepped in as a second mother to Emily in every way. She didn't replace her mom. She earned her own place. But that was never good enough for Emily. She grew more distant in her teens, started lashing out. At first, it was small, snide remarks, ignoring Laura, refusing to call her anything but her. By college, it was open hostility. She'd call me to complain about Laura invading her space when she'd only been asked if she wanted dinner. Every conflict in her life somehow became our fault. Still, we kept showing up. Through her panic attacks, through 2 stints in rehab, through the time she flunked out and blamed the professors for being jealous of her. We never left her side. Not once. So when she told me she was engaged to a guy named Matt, I thought maybe, just maybe, she was settling down, finding peace. He seemed decent, bit soft-spoken, maybe too agreeable. But Emily seemed genuinely happy for once, and I wanted to support that. So I did what any decent father would do. I offered to pay for the wedding. We're not talking a courthouse affair here. She wanted a lakeside venue, a 200-guest list, gourmet catering, a custom dress, a jazz quartet, a fairy tale, and I wrote the checks. All of them. $50,000. Gone. But it wasn't about the money. I saw it as a gesture, a way to bridge the divide that always felt like it was stretching further between us. A way to say, I'm here. I believe in you. I love you. She responded with emojis. Things started getting weird about a month before the wedding. My brother Dave asked when the big day was. Said he needed to book flights. I figured I'd check the guest list and get back to him. Simple, right? I called the planner. Polite guy, efficient. But when I asked him for the list, he hesitated. I need to check with the bride, he said. I laughed. I paid for the whole thing. I think I can know who's coming. He still refused. Said it was against policy. So I pulled rank. Told him he could either send it, or I was canceling his contract. That got his attention. 10 minutes later, I had the list. And that's when my hands started to shake. No Thomas. No Laura. No Dave. No mention of our side of the family at all. But listed under father of the bride? Rick. The same man who walked out on Emily at 6 years old. The same man who said, to my face, you take her. I can't be a dad right now. He was back. And not only had she welcomed him with open arms, she was having him walk her down the aisle. While I, the man who held her hand through every storm, wasn't even allowed to attend. I felt my whole body go cold. I stared at that list for what felt like hours. Then I started calling. Emily didn't answer. Matt didn't answer. Eventually, Laura found me sitting on the stairs, white as a sheet, the printout clenched in my fist. When she saw Rick's name, she just whispered, no. Then the tears came. I left voicemails. Angry ones. Sad ones. A few I can't even remember through the fog of heartbreak. She didn't call back. Days passed. Then a week. Then an invitation arrived. Not for us, for the guests. It was stunning. Elegant script. Emily and Matt, June 3rd, Lakeside Hall. And then I saw the RSVP number. It was Laura's old cell. The one she'd given up a year ago. She wasn't just cutting us out. She was erasing us. That night, Laura made a decision. We're not doing this, she said. We're not funding a wedding we're banned from. I stared at her. But the money's gone. Not all of it, she said. Some deposits can be reversed. We can make calls. And in that moment, something in me snapped back into place. A clarity I hadn't felt in years. She was right. I might not be able to stop the wedding, but I wasn't going to bankroll my own erasure. And so I started dialing. The first call I made was to the venue. I spoke with a woman named Carla. Calm, kind, but sharp enough to pick up on the tension in my voice. I told her I was the one who paid the deposit for Lakeside Hall, and I needed to cancel. May I ask the reason for the cancellation? She said, politely. I took a breath. Family matters. There was a pause. Then she said, understood. I'll initiate the process. You'll receive a partial refund within 5 business days. That was the first domino. Next came the caterer, then the florist, then the band. Each time, the same explanation. Each time, the same quiet relief in my chest. I left the dress alone. She had that. And I didn't touch the photographer either. Let them take pictures of an empty venue and call it art. The only vendor I didn't cancel? The planner. Not out of mercy. Out of calculation. I wanted Emily to feel it. Not immediately, but right when it mattered. Let them all show up, see the hollow shell of the wedding I was supposed to finance, and wonder what went wrong. Because it had gone wrong. In every way that mattered. You don't cut out your father. The man who raised you, sacrificed for you, carried you, and still expect his wallet to show up in a tux. Laura helped me. She was methodical, controlled, like she'd trained for this exact betrayal her whole life. She made the call to the quartet, voice flat and efficient. I think it helped her process the grief. We didn't talk much during those 2 days. Just handled it. Like soldiers cleaning up after a battle we never asked to fight. Then came the silence. For a week, nothing. No calls. No texts. Not from Emily, not from Matt, not from anyone. Then the day before the wedding, the planner called. Thomas, there seems to be an issue, he said. Several vendors are claiming you canceled. I didn't answer. Mr. Sinclair, the wedding is tomorrow. Then I suggest you call the bride, I said, and hung up. That night, Laura and I stayed home. We ordered Chinese food, turned off our phones, and sat on the couch in silence. She held my hand. At 10:37 p.m., the voicemail started. First from Emily. Dad, what the hell is going on? Everything's canceled. Did you do this? Why would you do this to me? Then from Matt. He sounded nervous. I don't know what happened, Mr. Sinclair, but Emily's freaking out. If there's a mistake, maybe we can fix it. Then more. From cousins, friends, even distant relatives I hadn't heard from in years. I showed up and the place is locked. What happened? Is the wedding moved? No one's answering. One message came from my niece, Anna. She was one of the few who knew the truth. I just want to say, you did what needed to be done. I'm sorry it had to be this way. I love you. And then, silence again. Until noon the next day, the day of the wedding. I was in the garage fixing the lawnmower, not because it was broken, but because I needed something, anything, to do. Laura came out holding her phone. She's at the gate. I blinked. Who? Emily. I stood there frozen. She's wearing the dress, Laura said. Her voice broke. She looks like she hasn't slept. I didn't move. Then I heard the horn. Short, sharp, repeated. She was laying on it. Like that alone could undo what she'd done. I walked to the front door, looked through the peephole. There she was. Mascara smeared, hair frizzed, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing anchoring her to the planet. She looked like a ghost. I opened the door, but didn't step out. She saw me and rolled down the window. You ruined everything, she screamed. Do you know what people are saying about me? Do you have any idea what you've done? I didn't answer. This was the most important day of my life, and you sabotaged it. Like a psycho. Still, I said nothing. She got out of the car then, slammed the door, stood there in her mud-stained dress like a fallen bride from a Greek tragedy. How could you, she whispered. I'm your daughter. And that's when I broke. You were, I said. But somewhere along the line, you decided I wasn't your father. Just a checkbook. Just a means to an end. She shook her head violently. That's not true. I needed boundaries. You needed boundaries, and you found them. Congratulations. This is what boundaries look like. She took a step forward. I didn't mean to hurt you. I just wanted my real family there. My throat clenched. Then go find them, I said. Because this one doesn't exist anymore. And I closed the door. Behind me, Laura sobbed. And outside, Emily screamed. I didn't open the door again. Not when she kept yelling. Not when she started crying. Not even when the cops showed up, blue and red flashing across our driveway like the final act of a play neither of us wanted to admit was over. They talked to her first. I watched from the window, arms crossed. Emily was pacing, gesturing wildly, then suddenly limp, sobbing into her palms. One of the officers gently walked her to her car. Another knocked on our door. "Everything okay here, sir?" he asked. I nodded. She just had a rough morning. He glanced at Laura behind me, then back at me. "You sure you don't want to file anything?" I shook my head. "She's my daughter." That seemed to be enough. He gave a soft nod and left. Emily didn't drive off right away. She just sat in her car. 15 minutes. Maybe 20. Then she peeled out of the driveway and disappeared. The silence after she left was thick, heavy. Laura sat at the kitchen table, fingers pressed to her temple. "You okay?" I asked. She didn't look up. That wasn't just a breakdown. That was a woman unraveling. She was right. But what do you do when your daughter burns the bridge, then demands you swim across the flames to pull her out? Later that night, I got a message from my niece. She posted a story tagging you. "I thought you should know." I braced myself. Opened Instagram. There it was. A black and white photo of Emily, dress ruined, eyes hollow. Captioned, "Some people will never forgive you for growing up without them." Below that, hundreds of comments. All sympathy. "You deserve better. Weddings bring out the worst in families. Cut the toxic people, girl." I felt my hands curl into fists, but I didn't respond. What was the point? The internet didn't want truth. It wanted a story, and she gave them one, even if it was a lie. A few days passed. The calls stopped. The messages thinned out. Then, one morning, Laura handed me her phone. "You need to hear this," she said. It was a voicemail. From Emily. "I don't know what to say anymore. I thought maybe you'd come around. Maybe you'd remember that I'm still your daughter. But clearly, you've moved on. So, I guess I will too." There was a pause. "Just so you know, Rick's offered to help us get married next month. Somewhere better. Classier. So we don't need you." Another pause. Then this. "Goodbye, Dad." That word. Dad. Like she was tossing it on a shelf to collect dust. Laura watched me carefully, waiting to see what I'd do. I handed the phone back. "Let her," I said. That night, I slept better than I had in weeks. But peace never lasts long when you're the villain in someone else's fairy tale. It didn't take long for the story to mutate. Like wildfire in dry brush, it spread. One Facebook post here, a screenshot there. Within a week, I was being painted as the bitter, controlling father who snapped when he couldn't have his way. According to her version, I hijacked the wedding out of spite. I was emotionally abusive, a manipulative narcissist who couldn't stand not being center of attention. At first, I laughed. Out loud. Sitting at the breakfast table with Laura, I read one post and snorted into my coffee. "I always knew Emily came from a toxic home," it said. "The way she overcame that is inspiring." Laura didn't laugh. She looked down at her plate and pushed her eggs around. "They don't know," I said. "Let them talk." But it got harder. Old friends unfriended me. Business contacts started pulling away. Even some of our family bought into it. My mother called in tears, saying she wished I'd handled things differently. "Maybe you should have just gone," she said, "to avoid all this." I nearly dropped the phone. "You think I should have attended a wedding I wasn't invited to? That I was banned from? I don't want our family falling apart." "It already has," I said. And I hung up. That night, Laura and I sat in bed, lights off, but neither of us sleeping. "You're not the villain," she whispered. "They just need one." I know, but it didn't make the silence easier. The house felt heavier, like the walls were tired of holding all this grief. Then came the final blow. Rick posted a photo. Emily, in a different white dress, standing beside Matt in a lush garden, smiling. And beside her, arm proudly linked with hers. Rick. Caption, "Some things are worth waiting for. Proud to walk my daughter down the aisle." I stared at the screen. The photo wasn't what hit me. It was the comments. "Beautiful family. So happy for you both. Real dads show up." I set the phone down. I didn't speak for a full minute. Then I got up, went to the office, pulled open a drawer, and took out the manila folder I'd stuffed all the invoices into. Vendor agreements, email receipts, bank statements. Over 47 grand in total. Laura appeared in the doorway. "What are you doing?" "Telling the truth." "To who?" "Everyone." I opened my laptop, drafted an email, sent it to every family member, every mutual friend, every person who had shared or commented or questioned. Subject line, the wedding you didn't see. In it, I told the story. Not with anger. Not with bitterness. Just facts. I paid for the venue. I was removed from the guest list. Rick was listed as father of the bride. I canceled the services I paid for. I did not yell. I did not threaten. I simply stopped funding my own erasure. I attached proof. Contracts. Screenshots. The email where the planner said Emily instructed him to bar us from attending. I ended it with one line. Sometimes love means stepping away, even when it breaks you. Then I hit send. And I waited. It took less than an hour. The first response came from my cousin Mark. He wrote, I had no idea, Tom. I'm sorry. Truly. You didn't deserve that. Then a wave followed. Quiet apologies. Messages laced with guilt. Old friends who'd believed the worst reaching out to say they should have asked questions instead of sharing memes. Even a few people who had commented under Rick's post went back and deleted them. A couple sent private messages saying they'd been manipulated. But the one that hit hardest? A voicemail from my mother. I read everything. And I'm sorry. I was wrong. I believed what I wanted to believe because it was easier than facing the truth about Emily. About Rick. About all of it. I hope you can forgive me. I didn't cry, but I felt something deep in my chest loosen, like I'd been holding my breath for weeks. The next week was quiet. Laura and I took a trip, just a few hours up the coast. No phones, no internet, just ocean air and silence. One night, we sat on the beach watching the sunset. She reached over, laced her fingers through mine. What if she never comes back? She asked. Then she doesn't, I said. And I meant it. When we returned home, there was a letter on the doorstep. No return address. I recognized the handwriting immediately. Emily. Inside, just a single page. Written with the kind of forced neatness that made it clear she'd rewritten it more than once. Dad, I saw your email. I read every word. I don't know how to respond. I'm angry. But I also understand now. I didn't then, but I do now. I thought Rick coming back meant I could rewrite the past. Pretend he'd never left. Pretend you were never the one who stayed. But that wasn't fair. Not to you. Not to Laura. You didn't ruin the wedding. I did. I don't know what I want right now. I just needed you to know that. Love. Emily. I read it 3 times. Then I handed it to Laura. So, she said. What now? I folded the letter. Tucked it into the drawer with the invoices and photos and memories that still stung. Now, I said, we wait. Not because I needed her to beg. Not because I wanted revenge. But because love without boundaries is just sacrifice with no end. And I'd finally drawn the line. 3 weeks passed. No calls. No texts. No more letters. And in that silence, I started to grieve properly. Not just the wedding. Not just the money. I was grieving a version of my daughter that no longer existed. The little girl with skinned knees who used to run into my arms after ballet class. The teenager who used to borrow my flannel shirts and pretend they were hers. The college freshman who once called me crying because her dorm roommate wouldn't stop using her shampoo. That Emily, the one who still believed I was safe, she was gone. What was left was a woman trying to make sense of a cracked foundation by blaming the only person who'd stayed. And even though I'd drawn my line, even though I'd started to breathe again, the ache didn't vanish. It just dulled until the knock on my door. It was a Saturday morning. Bright, clear skies. Laura was in the backyard trimming the hydrangeas. I was half watching a rerun of a game I'd already seen when I heard it. 3 knocks. Soft, uncertain. I opened the door, and there she was. Emily, hair pulled back in a loose braid. No makeup, eyes puffy, like she hadn't slept. She was holding a Tupperware container. I made banana bread, she said. I didn't know what to do with that. So I stepped aside. She walked in slowly, glancing around like she didn't recognize the place. Like it had become someone else's home while she was gone. She set the bread on the counter and stood there, arms crossed over her chest. I didn't come to fight, she said. I had this dream. A few nights ago, you and I were at the lake, the one we used to go to in summer. You were skipping stones, and I was sitting on the dock. And you turned to me and said, you always had a choice. She swallowed hard. I woke up crying. I leaned against the kitchen island. I always gave you a choice, Emily. You just didn't want the consequences. She nodded. I know. Silence stretched between us. I don't expect you to forgive me, she said. But I wanted to start showing up again. Without conditions. Without manipulation. Is Rick still around? She laughed bitterly. He ghosted 2 weeks after the wedding. Said he needed space. Told Matt he wasn't cut out for fatherhood. The irony was a slap in the face. And Matt, we're figuring things out, she said. Turns out, marrying in chaos creates more chaos. I didn't respond. I'm not here to make it better today, she said. I just wanted to see you. That landed. Not because it was perfect, but because, for the first time in a long time, it wasn't coded in performance. She saw the photo of her on the mantle, the one from high school graduation. She walked over, picked it up. You kept this. You earned it, I said. She set it back down, carefully, then turned to me. Can I come by next Saturday? No banana bread. Just me. I looked at her. Really looked. Not the daughter I wanted, but the daughter I had. Next Saturday works, I said. And that was it. No tears. No hugs. Just the beginning of something that might, if we're both lucky, grow into truth. Saturday came. And so did she. No banana bread this time. No awkward gifts or grand gestures. Just Emily, wearing an oversized sweatshirt and holding a grocery store bouquet that looked like it had been picked up 5 minutes before arrival. They looked better in the fridge, she muttered, handing them to Laura. Laura took them. Not with a smile, exactly. But not cold, either. It was a start. We sat on the back patio. No music. No distractions. Just 3 people in a triangle of old pain and slow-moving healing. Emily fidgeted, tucked her legs up under her like she used to as a kid. I've been seeing someone, she said. A therapist. That got my attention. Not just for this, she added quickly. For a lot. Stuff I never processed. Stuff I dumped on you because I didn't know where else to put it. I nodded slowly. I've done some of that work, too. She looked surprised. Really? Laura answered for me. After your letter. We both needed space to unpack. Emily blinked a few times. Her mouth opened like she wanted to say something, but closed again. Then finally, I was so angry. For so long, I convinced myself that everything wrong in my life was someone else's fault. You, Laura, even Mom, sometimes. But the truth is, I didn't want to take responsibility. It was easier to rewrite the story than admit I was lost. She looked right at me. And you became the villain because you never left. You were always there to blame. That hit harder than I thought it would. Not because it was cruel, because it was true. I don't need you to forgive me today, she said. Or next week. Or ever, if that's how it goes. I just want to earn back something real. Slowly, whatever that ends up being. We sat with that. The air was cool. The sun caught the rim of Laura's coffee mug and scattered light across the table. I glanced at Laura. She gave a small nod. Not permission, just presence. Then come back next week, I said. Emily smiled, a little crooked, a little unsure. The kind of smile that says, I'm still learning how to do this. And honestly, so was I. She stayed another hour. Talked about nothing and everything. Work, groceries, a show she'd started watching and already hated. It was awkward, clunky, but it was real. When she left, she hugged Laura first. That moment, that mattered. Then she hugged me. Quick, not quite tight. But she held on for a second longer than she needed to. Thanks for not shutting the door all the way, she whispered. After she drove off, Laura came and leaned against the railing beside me. You okay? I think so, I said. And I meant it. The following Saturdays became a rhythm. Emily would show up mid-morning. Sometimes with coffee. Sometimes just herself. No banana bread. No apologies. Just presence. She helped Laura in the garden once. Dug her fingers into the soil like it owed her something. Laughed when she accidentally yanked a whole root system out. Weeds have commitment issues, she joked. They never let go. Laura raised an eyebrow. Sounds familiar. And they both laughed. It was small, but I felt something ease in my chest watching it. One weekend, Emily brought a photo album. Old pictures. Some I'd forgotten existed. Her on my shoulders at the beach. Her first science fair. A candid of Laura braiding her hair when she was 12. She turned the pages slowly, like she was trying to convince herself those memories belonged to her. Did I ever thank you? She asked. For what? All of it. Raising me. Staying. Not turning me into an excuse. You were never an excuse, I said. You were the reason. Even when you made it hard to remember. That day, when she left, she hugged me differently. Longer. With both arms. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. The next week, I found her sitting on the porch when I got home from work. Knees pulled to her chest, headphones dangling from her neck. Everything okay? I asked. She nodded. Just needed somewhere real. I sat beside her. You know, she said, when I was 16, I hated Laura. I told everyone she was trying to replace Mom, that she manipulated you. I said nothing, but she wasn't the one trying to replace anyone. I was. I wanted someone to blame for the fact that Mom left, and I didn't want it to be Mom. So I rewrote the story, made you the villain, and Laura the co-conspirator. You were hurting, I said. Still doesn't make it okay. No, but it makes it human. She leaned her head on my shoulder. Just for a second. Do you think some things can't be fixed? She asked. I think some things shouldn't be fixed. They should be rebuilt. Brick by brick. From scratch. No shortcuts. She nodded slowly. I can live with that. I looked at her then. Really looked. There were shadows under her eyes. Lines in her forehead that hadn't been there a year ago. But there was also something else. A softness. A willingness. I hadn't seen that in her since she was a child. We sat there until the porch light flicked on automatically. Neither of us moved. Like the silence itself was doing the heavy lifting. Eventually, she stood. Next Saturday, she asked. I'll be here. And I would be. One night, about 2 months into our new rhythm, I found myself standing in the garage, same place I'd stood when I decided to cancel the wedding. The invoices were still in that drawer. The paper trail of betrayal. I opened it slowly. Looked at the stack. I didn't feel rage anymore. Or pain. Just weight. A history I wasn't ready to toss, but no longer needed to carry. Laura came in behind me, wrapped her arms around my waist. You thinking about tossing it? She asked. Thinking about what it meant, I said. What it cost. She rested her head on my shoulder. You paid in full, Tom. Now maybe it's time to collect something back. I nodded. The next Saturday, Emily didn't show. No call. No text. Laura said not to jump to conclusions. But I couldn't help it. My stomach twisted. Old fears reawakened. Had I been too hopeful? Had I missed some cue? Sunday morning, the doorbell rang. Emily stood there, eyes red, holding a small, beat-up cardboard box. I went to see her, she said. Your mom. She nodded. First time in years. She's not doing great. Living in a tiny apartment in Tacoma. Still blaming everyone but herself. She walked in without asking. Sat at the kitchen table. Opened the box. Inside, old photos, a few trinkets, and a crumpled letter. She gave me this, Emily said. Said it was something you wrote her after she left. I picked up the letter. Recognized my handwriting instantly. You made your choice. Just don't make her pay for it. Emily watched me read it. I kept thinking it was your fault she left, she said. But she showed me the truth without meaning to. She hasn't changed. Not one bit. She wiped her eyes. I wanted to blame you because you were here. Because you were safe. But I saw her, and I realized she didn't just leave me. She left herself. She handed me the box. I don't want this stuff. I want what we have now. Even if it's messy. Even if it's slow. I reached out, covered her hand with mine. It is messy, I said. And it is slow. But it's real. Laura walked in, sat down beside us. You're here now, she said. That's what matters. Emily nodded. I don't want to be forgiven. I want to do better. Then keep showing up, I said. And she did. The Saturdays kept coming. Eventually, they didn't feel like repairs anymore. They felt like home. 1 year later, we held a barbecue. Nothing fancy. Just family. Burgers on the grill. Kids running in the yard. The scent of charcoal and citronella hanging in the air. Emily brought potato salad and a pitcher of lemonade. Laura made her signature deviled eggs. I manned the grill like it was my pulpit. There was laughter. Real, easy laughter. Not the kind that hides tension or fills silences. After everyone left, Emily stayed behind to help clean. She washed. I dried. Laura sat on the porch with a glass of wine, humming to herself. You know, Emily said. A year ago, I thought I'd never speak to you again. I didn't look at her. Just kept drying. I thought cutting you out would fix everything. That if I erased the parts of me I didn't like, I'd be whole. I waited. But I've learned that healing doesn't come from silence. It comes from sitting in the mess and still choosing to stay. I set the plate down. You stayed, I said. That's what matters. She nodded. Then she pulled a small envelope from her bag, handed it to me. Inside was an invitation. It wasn't a wedding. It was a family dinner. Her house. Next Saturday. Just us. I want to start some new traditions, she said. Ones that aren't about proving anything. Just showing up. We'll be there, I said. She hugged me before she left. Longer this time. Real. Laura joined me inside, took my hand, and we stood there for a moment, just breathing. The wedding didn't happen. The fairy tale fell apart. But from its ashes came something harder to build, harder to break. A family. Not perfect, but real. And finally, that was enough.